If you love me, don't skip this, not because I need attention, but because love deserves to be heard when it's brave enough to speak. This isn't noise, it's a heartbeat. It's the quiet truth that waits between moments, hoping you'll stay just a little longer. I'm not here to impress you or convince you of anything grand. I'm here because when love is real, it shows up. It doesn't rush, it doesn't hide, and it doesn't scroll past what matters. If you love me, you'll feel this before you understand it. You'll hear the pauses, the honesty, the unpolished courage behind every word. Love isn't about perfect timing. It's about choosing to listen when it would be easier to look away. So stay. Not for me alone, but for the part of you that still believes love should be intentional, present, and deeply human. This message begins right where love begins, with attention. If you love me, don't skip this. Not because I'm afraid of being ignored, but because love has a way of revealing itself in moments like this. Love shows up when it could easily disappear. It stays when there are distractions pulling at your attention, when silence feels more comfortable than honesty, when scrolling past would take less effort than feeling something real. I'm not asking for much. I'm asking for presence, for a few moments where you choose to be here instead of everywhere else. Because love isn't built in grand gestures alone. It's built in the quiet decision to listen, to stay, to care enough to let the words land. If you love me, you'll recognize this feeling. That subtle pull in your chest that says this matters. That gentle pause where time slows down just enough for you to notice what you usually rush past. Love doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It speaks calmly and trusts that the right heart will stop and hear it. I'm speaking from that place. The place where honesty lives without armor, where emotions don't need to perform, where truth doesn't need to be dramatic to be powerful. This isn't about convincing you. It's about connecting with the part of you that already knows what love feels like when it's real. Love isn't perfect. It's human. It hesitates. It doubts. It sometimes arrives with messy timing and unfinished sentences, but when it's genuine, it doesn't run from depth. It leans in. It listens, even when the words are heavy. It stays curious instead of defensive. If you love me, you won't rush through this like it's background noise. You'll feel the intention behind every line, the care hidden in every pause. Because love notices effort. Love respects vulnerability. Love understands that opening your heart is never a small thing. I'm not standing here claiming to have all the answers. Love doesn't work that way. Love asks questions. Love wonders. Risk being misunderstood just to be real. And that's what this is, a risk. A moment of openness offered without guara and tease. I could stay quiet. I could pretend I don't care whether you stop or not. But love doesn't pretend. Love steps forward even when there's a chance it might not be met the same way. Especially then. If you love me, you'll know this isn't manipulation. It's sincerity. It's the kind of honesty that doesn't try to trap you, only invite you. An invitation to slow down, to feel, to remember that connection is rare, and when it shows up, it deserves attention. We live in a world that teaches us to move fast, to consume feelings instead of sitting with them. But love asks for stillness, it asks for courage, it asks for the willingness to be affected by another person's truth. I'm speaking to you, not the version of you that's distracted or guarded, but the version that believes love should be intentional. The version that knows skipping is easy, but staying can change something inside you. Love isn't about obligation, it's about choice. And choosing to listen is one of the purest forms of affection there is. When you stay, you're saying, this matters. You're saying, you matter. You're saying what we share is worth more than a few seconds of convenience. If you love me, you'll understand that this isn't about fear of losing you. It's about respect for what love can become when it's nurtured. Love grows where attention goes. It fades where it's neglected, not because it's weak, but because even the strongest feelings need care. I'm not asking you to promise forever. I'm asking you to be present now, to give this moment the same seriousness you'd give something you truly value. Love doesn't need perfection. It needs truth. And the truth is, when you care about someone, you want to hear them out, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges you, even when it makes you reflect on your own feelings. That's how love deepens, not by avoiding, but by engaging, not by skipping, but by staying. I know it's easier to protect yourself by not feeling too much. I know Ability can feel risky, but love has always been a risk, a beautiful one. The kind that teaches you who you are when you let your guard down. The kind that shows you strength isn't about control, it's about openness. If you love me, you'll see this moment as an act of trust, not pressure, as a bridge, not a demand. This is me choosing honesty over silence, choosing connection over comfort, choosing to speak even though I don't know exactly how it will be received. And that choice comes from love, not the loud kind, the steady kind, the kind that believes meaningful things are worth slowing down for, the kind that understands real emotion doesn't need to rush to be valid. If you love me, you'll feel the calm in these words, the absence of games, the simplicity of truth spoken without decoration. Love doesn't need to exaggerate, it just needs to be real. And this is real. This is what it looks like when someone cares enough to ask you not to look away. When someone believes that what they resharing deserves a moment of your time, not because they're entitled to it, but because they trust the connection between you. Love pays attention. It notices tone. It senses intention. It feels when something is coming from a genuine place. And if your heart is open, you'll feel it here, in the spaces between the words, in the softness that isn't trying to impress, in the honesty that doesn't hide behind confidence. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about being sincere. I don't want to be background noise in your life. Love never wants that. Love wants to be felt, not just acknowledged. And feeling requires presence. So if you love me, stay with this moment. Let it breathe. Let it settle. Let it remind you that love is as much about listening as it is about speaking. Because sometimes the most important thing love can say is simply this: please don't skip what we're building, what we're sharing, what we're becoming. Because moments like this are where meaning lives, where connection deepens, where hearts quietly decide to keep choosing each other, even when there are easier paths to take, even when no one is watching, even when the world keeps moving fast and loud around us. And all that exists right now is this feeling, this attention, this choice to stay and listen and feel and remain present in something that asks for nothing more than your heart being open enough to receive it. If you love me, listen before you leave. Not because I'm afraid of silence, but because love has its own language, and it only speaks when someone is willing to slow down enough to hear it. This isn't about holding you back or asking you to choose something you're not ready for. It's about that moment right before you decide to move on, when love gently asks, have you really listened, or have you already made up your mind? Because love isn't loud, it doesn't interrupt, it waits patiently, hoping you'll notice it's still there. Listening is an act of care. It's how love says, I see you, without needing to say anything else. When you listen, you're not just hearing words, you're feeling the intention behind them, the vulnerability that took courage to share. Love doesn't rush to conclusions. It doesn't close doors without understanding what's on the other side. It pauses, it considers, it allows space for truth to unfold naturally without forcing it into something neat or comfortable. If you love me, you'll understand that listening doesn't mean agreeing. It means respecting the heart that's speaking. It means allowing someone else's emotions to exist without immediately defending your own. Love is mature like that. It knows that real connection isn't about winning an argument. It's about understanding where the other person stands, even if that place feels unfamiliar or challenging. Especially then, so many people leave without listening, not because they don't care, but because listening requires vulnerability. It asks you to be open to being moved, to being affected, to possibly realizing something you weren't prepared to face. But love has never been about staying safe. Love is about staying present. It's about giving someone the dignity of being heard before you decide what comes next. If you love me, you won't treat my words like background noise. You won't half listen while already planning your exit. You'll be here fully, even if only for this moment. Because moments like this matter more than they seem. They're where misunderstandings dissolve, where assumptions soften, where hearts reveal what they've been holding back. Love listens because it believes there's always more beneath the surface. I'm not speaking to trap you in emotion. I'm speaking to invite you into clarity. Love doesn't want confusion. It wants honesty. And honesty needs space to breathe. When you listen, you're saying my feelings are safe with you, even if you don't know what to do with them yet. That kind of safety is rare. That kind of attention is love in its most genuine form. If you love me, you'll recognize that listening is a choice. In a world full of distractions, choosing to listen is choosing depth over convenience. It's choosing connection over comfort. It's choosing to sit with emotion instead of escaping it. Love doesn't ask you to fix everything. It asks you to be present, to be real, to acknowledge that what's being shared matters enough to deserve your time. Sometimes love isn't about staying forever. Sometimes it's about leaving with understanding instead of regret. But you can't have understanding without listening. You can't have peace without knowing you truly hurt each other. Love listens not to hold on, but to honor what was shared, to make sure that whatever happens next, it happens with respect, not avoidance. If you love me, don't rush past this moment like it's uncomfortable silence. Sit with it. Let it speak. Let it show you what it needs to show you. Love reveals itself when you give it room. It shows you truth in layers, not all at once. And listening is how you uncover those layers without tearing them apart. I'm not asking you to promise anything. I'm asking you to understand something. That listening is one of the most powerful expressions of love there is. More than words, more than gestures, more than declarations. When you listen, you're saying, I care enough to know you, not just the version of you that's ease, I to love, but the version that's honest, complex, and real. If you love me, you'll notice that this isn't about urgency. It's about sincerity. Love doesn't chase. It doesn't pressure. It simply opens its hands and waits. Waiting isn't weakness. It's patience rooted in respect. And respect begins with listening, with acknowledging that what's being shared isn't random, it's intentional. Love doesn't fear difficult conversations. It fears being misunderstood. And misunderstanding happens when we stop listening too soon, when we assume instead of asking, when we protect ourselves by closing our ears instead of opening our hearts. If you love me, you'll resist that instinct. You'll stay curious. You'll let the words reach you before deciding how you feel about them. I know listening can be uncomfortable. It can challenge the story you've been telling yourself. It can make you question your certainty. But love grows in those moments of uncertainty. It becomes deeper, more grounded, more real. Love that is listened is different. It's wiser, it's calmer, it's less reactive and more intentional. If you love me, you'll understand that I'm not speaking to be dramatic. I'm speaking because silence can sometimes feel like dismissal. And love doesn't dismiss. Love acknowledges, it recognizes effort. It values vulnerability. It understands that opening your heart is never casual, it's deliberate. And deliberate things deserve attention. Listening doesn't mean you owe me anything. It means you respect what we share enough to fully experience it, to let it be what it is without rushing to label it or escape it. Love doesn't always need answers right away. Sometimes it just needs to be heard. If you love me, you'll listen not just to my words, but to what I'm trying to say underneath them, to the care, to the intention, to the hope that even if we don't have everything figured out, we can still meet each other with honesty. Love meets people where they are. It doesn't demand perf. Sishiyan, it asks for presence. I'm not afraid of where this leads. I'm more afraid of what happens when we don't listen, when we leave things unsaid, unheard, unresolved. Love deserves better than that. It deserves the dignity of being fully expressed, even if the outcome is uncertain. Especially then, if you love me, give this moment your attention, not forever, just now, because now is where truth lives. Now is where understanding begins. Now is where love shows its character. And the choice to stay a little longer, to listen a little deeper, to let another person's heart reach you without interruption. Love doesn't always ask you to stay. Sometimes it asks you to understand. And understanding starts here, in this quiet space where words are offered without armor, where listening becomes an act of courage, where connection matters more than convenience, where you choose to hear instead of hurry, to feel instead of flee, to remain present in a moment that asks only for your openness, or attention, your willingness to listen before you decide to leave, to listen before you protect yourself, to listen before the opportunity to truly understand slips away. Because once a moment like this passes, it doesn't come back the same way. And love remembers not how fast you moved on, but whether you listened when it mattered most.